Hello and welcome to WRLDS TV. Thanks for joining us. We're streaming at our usual time of Thursday, 5 p.m. from Black Frog Studios in Stockholm. On today's show, we have a special guest. His name is Siavash Habibi. He is the head of business development and communications at TechBuddy. They are a digital platform for tech support. So if you have any questions about how you might improve your life, here's the time to ask them now. You can drop them into the comment section below, either on Twitch or on Facebook. We're going to go into the idea of having a holistic approach to setting strategy design. But for now, we're going to go to tech news. All right. Happening recently is oh, Chris is coming to the set. Let's hold off for a second. Chris, I'm going to talk about Airbnb.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. It's going to be amazing. Okay. I can't believe we're doing this, but we are. Okay. So Airbnb are building houses.
No way. Why?
Because they want money.
They want the complete control.
They want to take over the world.
You know what? The next step they should be doing is they should also be starting to create customers. Then they have the whole fucking ecosystem on all by themselves.
Creating customers?
Yeah, they just make some form of AI
just
customer,
robots.
Right?
Oh,
that uses
nice.
them, and you know,
Nice.
then they have the whole economy. They
Wow.
can, it's brilliant.
Nice.
Like the way they're thinking.
Yeah, it's smart.
Let's get these problematic people out of the way. Customers, they're requiring stuff, and the hosts, they're crazy.
Yeah. It's all bull. But they've announced Project Backyard, and it's an initiative that will test a wave of prototype houses throughout 2019. That's next year. It's happening
my God,
that's soon. They have some interesting numbers. They're projecting that they will occupy 2.5 trillion square feet of new buildings, and that will be constructed worldwide by 2060. How big is your apartment? I mean, what is it like?
You really want to know?
I mean, no. Let's talk about the studio. How big is the studio?
It's like 40 square meters. My apartment is about the same.
Okay.
And that's actually
So
bigger.
how many studios would fit into 2.5 trillion square feet?
You just blew my mind.
Yeah.
We can build so many studios.
Yeah, by 2060. Okay.
Oh my God. Let's do that.
All right. Also happening, Honda, Caltech, and NASA have been working with Flouride batteries. They're longer lasting than lithium ion and able to work at room temperature. Lithium ion, you have to crank them up. You have to make it really hot.
Oh my God, that's
Fluoride.
Beautiful. That image though.
Yeah, it looks like science, doesn't it? It's science.
Yeah,
science.
I get that. Like,
Fluoride.
I'm all for making things simple to understand and simplified, making all of these nice
but that's
graphics.
obviously a
that's part of
fluoride
what we do.
battery. Right, but that's a fluoride battery. It's obvious.
I get what they're trying to show here, but it's like
Okay.
at a certain point you make it so simple that it just becomes stupid.
Okay,
You know
well,
what I
I can explain this.
Right.
Okay,
Sure.
with science.
With
okay,
science.
so with lithium, all right, with
Yeah, science,
lithium,
very science.
the
Yeah,
most
I give you 1 point.
lithium,
for that.
it's Li on the
Name
periodic
dropping.
table.
Yeah, also a great album by Nirvana.
Yes, indeed. So lithium is the most electropositive element on the periodic table, and the new battery is the most electronegative. The fluoride ion batteries, essentially, I'm totally reading this, essentially work in the opposite direction of lithium-ion cells, attracting electrons instead of shedding them. The battery can store more energy than a lithium cell and is more environmentally safe.
I love it.
You love it.
I love it.
You wish you were
I'm
a
very
battery.
positive.
Yeah.
Although, yeah, I wish
Yeah,
I was a battery.
you wish you were a
Although I
battery.
don't think they look exactly like this.
Whatever. Australian company Viewer. Have you heard of them?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not.
They've released a new monitor tool that lets your friends see what you're doing in VR.
This is really interesting for us, actually. 'Cause
Exactly.
we talk a lot about like how can you create experience out of things that you're normally doing. Like say that I'm working with music, right? So how do you create a VR experience where you actually create music? But the most important thing is actually not how that experience feels for you. It is how do you make other people watch you doing that, right? You used to look at Twitch, we're streaming on Twitch, hello Twitch people. Look at the importance of thinking design-wise. not only how is it going to look for the person using this tool, but how is it going to look for people looking at this person using the tool? That's an incredibly important.
It's very cool. It's going to make things really social.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm pumped.
Yeah. And the few of the games that have already been using it are Super Hot VR. Anyone who's played this game, Beat Saber, and Budget Cuts. So they've already adopted this as a plugin, and any game developer can actually install a viewer as a plugin into their games, or users can upload it onto their games themselves manually if you're so inclined to be watched while using VR. Right.
Yeah. So that's the next level for the stream. We're just going to be walking around here in our own VR worlds and be like, this camera.
Exactly. And you can just watch us doing that.
So completely confused.
It's absolutely fantastic.
I think what would be fun is having people live in that world, and you tell people that, yeah, we're actually streaming from inside your world, so it makes sense, but you don't. So you just show people walking around completely blind.
We can just use the same footage over and over again.
That's true.
Yeah, yeah. Budget cuts.
Finance.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Shall we get our special guest to the seat?
I think it's time.
Ready?
Can we
Should
time
do
this?
it? We can time this.
Oh my God.
Okay, first I'm gonna wink at Siavash. All right, are you ready?
Ready.
Are you ready? Are we ready?
We are ready.
Siavash Habibi.
Awesome. Oh my God! Again, beautiful. We're getting so good. I'm always psyched about this when it actually works. You know, you have this idea that people should come in and it should fade in, it should look professional, and then all of a sudden it just does. And you go like, oh,
Voila.
what? At least something worked today. It's like going to the gym, you know?
Of all the times I'm happy it happened when I came in. It's fantastic, you guys.
I have to admit, it happened 3 times in a row now.
Oh, okay.
I think we're getting past the fluke point, and I think it's like Lee is getting awesome at that timing. Just like
Love it.
change.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
We were so psyched the last episode, and I think we spent like at least 5 minutes being like, oh, yeah, I always.
Oh yeah,
I'm
we've
excited.
hyped you like crazy,
we
by the way.
We had a hype.
I saw the Johanna episode. It's very kind. Thank you, Johanna,
Yeah.
and you guys.
I'm
it
so
was,
happy for my mom.
All right. Yeah.
You
Well.
gotta be like,
Did she give you grief afterwards? It was.
no, she doesn't understand how to watch the episodes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's the benefit.
Do you
She actually
understand
does.
now?
She does follow me on Twitch and stuff. So,
Okay.
Yeah, she does watch it.
Awesome.
I love that you guys are doing this on Twitch. I think Twitch is a great channel for this.
I mean, I love Twitch.
Yeah.
I have to say something like when you're building this and I mean, it's just so hard to actually produce whatever you wanted to do. And Twitch and that whole community has really created a new standard for how you can create engaging content, and just that power of live feedback that it becomes so much more interactive, and it just really closes that gap.
No, I think it's great. It's the well, aside from the VR thing you were talking about, it is the future of content in a sense, and I think Amazon was very smart to get in there.
Oh, yeah.
I heard somewhere that Twitch is like bigger than HBO, Netflix, all of them combined. Like it's a massive viewership.
Yeah.
It is absolutely huge.
Yeah. And you're no stranger to having many viewers. In fact, I think we have a number here. As head of news from Noto TV, how many viewers did you have within 3 months?
Well, so the TV channel, all in all.
The channel, right.
Yeah. We were estimating at about 50 million on and around, like plus minus 10 million somewhere. Yeah.
I just have few zeros from what we were having.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was
Beautiful.
fantastic.
Beautiful.
We didn't think it was gonna blow up that big ourselves, but we were very happy it did. It was.
Tell us about the show. I mean, it was for Farsi-speaking people who needed something alternative to happen in Iran.
Yeah, exactly. I think this was so. The team behind the TV station. We lived in LA. I was in LA at the time studying, and so the person who became the CEO and founder of Manoto came up to me and a friend of mine, Ra, and he said, "I want to create the first Iranian internet TV station. What do you guys think?" And we were like, "Fantastic! Internet, TV, both were great things." 2005, yeah, right. Good, two good terms.
Right? I love it. Let's do it.
And so we're like, let's do it, right? So on the side of our studies, we would go in, help create content and whatnot. And it was really like shoestring budgets. We had very little money to do the things we did, but it grew in popularity. It was, I mean, surprisingly, we had a really big international audience to our internet TV channel for Farsi speakers, right? So what happened was, to my understanding, investors came and said, what would you do with a lot more money? Because there's a big gap in the Iranian market for good entertainment channels and providing advertising. The entertainment content for Farsi speakers was very weak at the time. So we changed that. They gave the founder a bunch of money and said, start it up, let's see what happens. And so what happened was, instantly it became the #1 TV show for Farsi speakers around the world, but primarily in Iran. So it was massive viewership inside Iran. Some people would joke and say, like, okay, when this show is on, which was like our idol talent show, traffic would stop in Tehran. It's a joke. I don't believe traffic ever stops in Tehran, but something like that.
Yeah. And then you moved on to become a management consultant.
Yeah.
And you even worked with Forsyth Group.
Yeah, I did, yes. It was... so I met the CEO of the Forsyth Group at the Clinton Global Initiative, where I was engaged for several years. And he was a member, I was event staff. And so I saw that, his name was Swedish. So I went up and introduced myself. And, the Clinton Global Initiative gathers influencers from different sectors to come together to tackle global challenges, which is why I fell in love with the organization. And so since he was there, his business was very conscious-oriented and helping other businesses become more, sustainable or take responsibility. So we clicked, and 6 months later, I started working for the Forsyth Group in Stockholm.
In Stockholm.
Learning the traits of a management consultant. Learning, yeah.
Yeah, really.
I was a political science major who had done some stuff with the Clinton Global Initiative and then the TV station in London.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep going with his bio. Just because Okay. Wait, before that, you told me that Forsyth Group coined the word
right.
entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship. Yeah.
Entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So the founders of the Forsyth Group, the 3 gentlemen who, like 40 years ago, were part of coining the term entrepreneurship. They were working with massive companies like IBM, Unilever, in helping them invite their employees to come with ideas on how to expand the businesses, right? And so identifying who are the entrepreneurs within the organization and how can we unleash their creativity to make our business grow, which, really is entrepreneurship in a sense. So they were part of coining that term. They made binders that they sold to these massive companies on how to do this. And so they worked for 35-something years on these kinds of projects. And so when I started the Forsyth Group, this was what we were doing. So I was part of 2 or 3 such projects.
Yeah.
With Swedish companies.
And then you were the portfolio manager at water.org.
Right. That was such a blast. Water.org were such celebrities at the Clinton Global Initiative. I mean, every time they had their annual meetings, President Clinton and the speakers and Matt Damon would come up on stage, and they were big celebrities because they have a fantastic model that's super scalable. When I joined, I think they'd helped about 2-3 million people with access to water and sanitation. Today, they're at 16 million people served. I mean, that's massive growth. So if you think about that in contrast to building wells, which is necessary and needed, this is a highly scalable method to ensuring that, millions of people have access to safe water and sanitation. So I love their idea. I knew some of the people who worked there from the Clinton Global Initiative. And so there was a serendipitous moment where my particular skills matched their particular needs. And so, it was fantastic. It was a great time.
And
that
then...
was really, really cool.
Isn't it, though?
Isn't it, though? I mean, it's really worth it to go through it, man.
Exactly. It's like a legacy.
Deep dive back into this later.
chairman at Nonviolence Project
Right,
in Scandinavia. Yeah.
Well, I'm
Maybe actually you should just say what Nonviolence Project is.
Sure,
actually.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, so the Nonviolence Project is it was founded in Sweden, so it's a very famous. I don't know if everyone has seen the knotted gun. So it's a very famous symbol, and it originated here in Sweden. So the statue is outside the UN building at Hötorget here in Stockholm, and here in Stockholm is like. So the Nonviolence Project is really about educating youth on the philosophy behind nonviolence, such as Martin Luther King and Gandhi and whatnot, conflict resolution, and a sense of self, because that's very important. When you learn to have a sense of self and self-confidence and self-value, you're much less prone to incite violence or instigate. So these are the things that we teach youth in schools, sports projects, music projects, etc. And so I've been on the board of the Nonviolence Project for years now, and recently also as chair. Fantastic group of people doing wonderful work. Yeah.
Nice.
Big shout out to the Nonviolence group.
Yeah. I hope they're watching. I hope some of your legacy people are watching so they can celebrate you. And that leads us to TechBuddy.
Right.
And you have a nice story about how you got seduced.
That's a good word. That's a good word to describe it. I was seduced by Tahero Nouri, who was the main founder of TechBuddy. There were a couple of them. So we were at a Foresight retreat. So the CEO of the Foresight group, he does these biannual retreats to maintain his network and also get to know new people. So I had been on those retreats 4 times, and this time he had invited Tahero, who he had recently gotten to know, and he put Tahero and I in the same villa, which is very smart. And so we got to know each other. I was charmed by his personality. I mean, this guy is very energetic. He's one of those fiery people. You can see it when he talks. He's very energetic and passionate about what he does. And so we got to hang out and whatnot, and then towards the end of the retreat, he was talking to actually one of the Foresight founders, and he was talking about what he wanted to do with the labor market and how he wanted to change that through TechBuddy. And so he got into aspects of the business that were connected to social sustainability, obviously something very close to heart to me, for me. And so I was enthused by his charisma and passion for his cause. So we continued talking about that. He told me more about TechBuddy, and I was like, wow, this is fantastic. I had some ideas, and then, fast forward a couple of weeks, he said, why don't you just come on board and execute your ideas? And so we talked about it for some time, and then 2 months later, I quit my job and gave notice, and here I am.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah, it was a summer flirt.
It stayed with you, yeah?
Yeah, it did. I mean, and it was a fantastic decision. I love TechBuddy. Love working there. It's a lot of work and also a lot of fun. But that's how I like it.
Yeah. So that was the bio of a generalist-specialist. Using your language, right? A generalist-specialist.
And we have been talking about this a little bit before. I know you were actually talking a little bit before as well. But we have connected to that quite a few times. Because the more people specialize in something, the more you actually need people who don't. Like, you need to understand a little about a lot. You need to get to a point where every single part of the business, where you understand that you don't know it.
Yeah.
Like, so that you can actually, and you understand when people have knowledge in the field, that you're able to identify those people and kind of tie them to your cause.
Yeah.
And I see this in many companies, startups and organizations, or people that just want to do something. This is often what they lack.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't have really great people. It's that there is no one there that can kind of connect it.
Right.
Who can have this, who just, pretty much exactly as that, who knows enough about a subject to not think that they know anything about it.
Yeah.
Right? Which is a threshold of knowledge that you have to pass in whatever you do.
Completely agree. Yeah, I think that's a very good way to put it. I completely agree. In any discipline, really. So for instance, when I got my bachelor's, I was like, I know my stuff. And then when I got my master's, I was like, I don't know this stuff. You know, it's such a contrast. You know, the more you learn, you're like, okay, so I'm really just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
But it is that, I think, one of the things I noticed as a consultant with the Foresight Group, also at Centigo, was that the C roles are really meshing together more and more in business. You know, for obvious reasons, due to the digital nature, how marketing has changed. And so before you had a marketing or a chief marketing officer, and that person's job was to know marketing. Now that person needs to talk to the head of sustainability and the head of sales and the head of, you know, HR to know what to have in their marketing, because these are the kinds of questions that drive sales. These are the kinds of questions that you need to actually have some sort of position on to be successful as a brand. And so the C-level roles are really meshing together. Even at that level, you need to have more generalists. So we have a bunch of mini CEOs walking around in companies, or we need more mini CEOs walking around in companies. And that creates a very interesting future, say, in leadership.
Yeah.
And in the same sense, you have...
And it's a little bit of the problem with part of the education system as well, that we think that we have to become so specialized. Yeah. And the education system really does favor specialization over everything else. It's just really, I believe it's really, really damaging.
Yeah.
Because, and you have these people, like, you don't really, and this is gonna sound weird, but you don't really need an education. I'm not saying you shouldn't get one. I'm saying if you can use Google, you don't really need it.
No.
I mean, you can actually find everything that you need to know about a subject.
Sure.
If you want to find it, and if you learn how to find it.
Yeah. No, there's obviously enough content on Google and YouTube to be expert at you know, really anything. Having said that, you know, there's a great organization in Canada called Audacious Futures, and so they've started something called Audacious U. It's an online education platform, digital education platform driven by AI. And it's adaptive to your particular, you know, skills and how fast you learn. And what you learn really is future skills. What's actually attractive in the market, in the coming market. This is great, but one of the questions I keep thinking about with this, and they've actually thought about this as well, is there's a connection between education and being a good citizen. And that's different from, you know, how good you're at your job. So this is one element of education, creating, you know, future, say, workforce. But there's another element to education, which is creating good citizens. And so I think moving towards the non-traditional education, while I'm for it in many senses, I think we need to also take into account how do we create good citizens so that we have democratic societies in the future.
And that's absolutely true. And it's one of these big kind of democratic conundrums, right?
Yeah.
Is how, without making propaganda, do we turn people into correctly thinking critical individuals? And this correctly thinking is a really, really, it's a point where I feel like in debates, when you're talking about this, that's where you're going to get attacked.
Yeah,
what do you mean with correctly thinking?
Right.
Well, there is actually scientific method. There is actually something we can learn that we should kind of honor. We have actually learned stuff, and we don't have to go back and relearn all of that every time. We can actually say that, you know, we have all of these different disciplines that have been created and have been proven incredibly successful. You know, so we don't have to go back and question all of them. I'm not saying we shouldn't. We can, but we can actually say we aren't starting from zero. We don't have to start from zero.
How can we take in that historical knowledge, really, the lessons learned? I think that would be great if we could. For now, we're bound to repeat our mistakes. At least that's what it seems to me, without going too political.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's always, but you always have the swing of the pendulum, right? Which can be really good in a sense. But I think, and I have my hopes that even, you know, like what you're saying, a mix of going out there, learning things, and actually being in school.
Yep.
Because what you're doing, specifically in the university, what I did in university, I mean, I didn't finish my degree. I had a lot of fun though,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you learn so many people skills. You learn so much philosophy. That's what I was studying.
Right.
But that starts to become a topic, because you're getting to a level where why is the important question.
Sure.
And all the other questions you're expected to know by now.
Yeah.
And I hope a lot of education today can start asking the question why a lot earlier than it is today. Because what date, what this, who did that, you don't need to have that in your head. I mean, you don't anymore. Like if you really want to find out the year that happened or the formula for making this calculation,
sure.
you're going to find it. You do need to know why you should use it and possibly when it applies. These are the two things that you should care about.
Yeah, yeah.
And I hope and I trust actually in what you're saying. Watching this, it is moving that way. Let's just hope it moves fast enough.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the thing.
So TechBuddy is a platform,
Right?
And you're working with a gig economy. How did they get educated?
So our gig preneurs.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
gigpreneurs.
Yeah, the
exactly.
gigpreneurs.
How do you imagine that? Do they know what questions to ask?
I think so it's important to mention that we have gigpreneurs, buddies, as we call them, buddies who are young and students themselves right now, and so they see this as a fantastic extra job. They took a liking to tech at a very early age, and now they're in college or equivalents. And so they do TechBuddy tasks on the side, but we also have full-time TechBuddies also up in the age, and I think our oldest TechBuddy is in his 60s. So we have a good range of people with different levels of education and different levels of knowledge, and I think our responsibility is to create RY and send that message across. What kind of company are we? What do we stand for? Why do we exist? What's our raison d'être? And so communicating that, I think, is very important. And we're getting better at that.
Yeah. And you're currently based in Sweden and Spain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you're going between the two markets personally, or do you have a second unit out there?
No, we have a second unit in Spain, and so they have their own office. They're very efficient. With much fewer people, they're doing fantastic work in Spain, and so Spain has really been our. I don't want to say a test market, but it's certainly been a case that we can replicate for the coming markets.
Could you describe what TechBuddy does?
Yeah,
I was asking here, and it's a good question because not everyone does. No?
Right. Okay. So TechBuddy is really connecting people who are really good at tech to people who need tech support. So what happens is someone who lives somewhere is having a problem with their computer, with their antivirus, or with their whatever it may be, their TV, their Wi-Fi. And they can, through us, get in contact with someone who lives nearby, who's good at tech, and who can come and help them with their tech problems. And so,
I think everyone for me growing up, this is like a constant thing that I, for some reason, was asked to do.
Yeah,
it's not like I was particularly good at it, because you grow up with computers, you don't really necessarily think you're good at them.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't say that's my strength, right? But there are a lot of people, and it's not, again, they're generally older, but it's not really about that at all.
No.
There are people who just do not want to interact with their computers at all, and who do not feel comfortable. And like we were saying last time, it is a little bit tedious to constantly be the person that have to fix someone else's stuff. Specifically if you work with it and that's what you do all day. Yeah. It's like...
And it's so funny you mentioned that, because that's even part of our marketing to attract buddies, because it's really the case. It's very often the case. And we say, you're probably the person who helps uncle and grandma with their technical stuff. Why don't you do this, as a way of making a living or as a side gig. But it's so typical. I talk to friends who own businesses, small businesses, and I ask them, I say, who comes and takes care of your tech needs and tech support, and say, well, that person's husband or that person's brother or sister, or there's always some personal connection, and you ask them to, for free, come and fix your stuff. And there's that divide, because I think about somewhere between 500,000 to 1 million people are digital outsiders in Sweden. This really means that, as government services are turning more digital, and they are, if you want to do your taxes, if you want to go to the Försäkringskassan, or what that is in English. So a lot of government services, you need BankID, or to sort of verify that you are you. That's a digital procedure that a lot of people are not familiar with, or it's just frustrating to them. And it's not always the easiest to download your BankID to your computer or cell phone, etc. And so people don't. And they're stuck outside these services. They have to fill out forms like before. And guess what? They end up in the back of the pile. So if we're getting our tax returns, it will take us, one click, and April we'll have our money in our bank account. For other people, it's end of August, and they have to fill out, tedious forms.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of digital outsiders out there who are missing out, but there's also a lot of tech enthusiasts.
Right. And installations are your primary market, right?
Yeah,
installations.
Like almost half of our tasks is installing new products, new tech.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people could do it, but as you said, I think many people just don't. They don't have the time, or they prefer not to spend the time doing that. And I can't remember seeing anyone use a manual, at least not for the last 3 years. I don't know anyone who has opened the product and looked through the manual saying, okay, this is how you install this.
No,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the thing I realized for me. It used to be something that I really hated. I mean, I don't want to go through. I want to play with stuff.
Yeah.
And then I want to learn.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I don't want to be doing it. And then the more of this stuff you do, the more you realize it is a really good thing to just read the manuals. Now, like now I'm like this dude who's like, okay, we better read this first.
Right.
But
you're technically inclined, right?
I'm not sure I would say that.
Yeah.
Like I'm probably more social, and I like to interact with people. Then again, I mean, I won't build a studio.
Yeah.
And then I build a studio,
Right.
And I hack solutions and I make it work, right? But I'm never, like, for instance, working with Matthias in Worlds is amazing, because he's just at a completely different level.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about that more and more, just that literacy, which is your ability to find what you're looking for at the time when you need to be able to use it and understand what that means, and how incredibly important that skill is if you want to solve this challenge.
Right.
And if you don't, that's also fine.
Yeah.
But you probably shouldn't be asking your poor nephew.
Yeah.
It is you. It's fair pay a little for the service, because it's definitely, and you don't have to worry about it. That's what I really like about this is that we need to kind of put a price on that knowledge sometimes.
And so, I mean, this is also a trend question, right? In other markets, having home services, i.e. someone coming to your home and doing services for you, is much more common. And in Sweden, we're just getting warmed up to that. I know in countries, I heard last that France, this is not picked up yet. So it's a matter of, maturation in different parts of the world. In Stockholm, we're warming up to it. So, for instance, I have a family of a wife and a daughter, and before, we'd clean our own apartment. Now, having someone to come to our place and help us out with that, it's not that we don't know how to do it. It's just we would love to have, at least some of the things taken care of, so that we buy time. Yeah. That's basically what you're doing. You're buying time. Exactly. And so we're seeing that pick up. We are seeing that customers who generally take home services, like cleaning, like other things, are the types of customers that would order a TechBuddy and whatnot.
And it's very similar. I mean, I talked to my actually my mom about this because
Yeah.
I mean she's and not the only one, but yeah, common talk like, oh, my computer isn't really working
Yeah.
and stuff. And I'm like, just that analogy, because you need to clean your computer, man. Like it is like any other space.
Yeah.
You need to make sure it's clean, and at a certain point you're gonna clog it up. And you
Yeah.
need to do that kind of routinely, right? I'm really bad at cleaning my physical spaces, but I tend to be pretty good at cleaning my digital spaces.
I love that. Thank you.
It's actually really similar.
Yeah.
You need to take care of stuff in the digital world, or they're eventually gonna be exactly like your home.
Right,
There's gonna
right.
be pizza cartons everywhere, and there's gonna be weird things in the corner molding, like infecting your whole, and you're just gonna have to spend those, whatever it takes. Sometimes 3-4 days to fix it.
Yeah, and it's great, and it's also we get as a society very urban city oriented. So a lot of companies, a lot of solutions are really geared towards the bigger cities like Stockholm, like Gothenburg, or other metropolitan cities in bigger countries, and one of the things that we can offer our partners, such as Telia or MediaMarkt, is that we're nationwide. From the tiniest village in southern Sweden up to Kiruna, we have, I think we counted, it was like 653 cities or something, which is, you don't even think there are that many cities. But I looked at the locations that we serve customers, and it's really 650 plus. And you cannot do that in another way than the gig economy. Or if you do, it's so expensive that a startup can't bear that risk or bear that cost.
Well, now's a good time to bring up Geek Squad.
Geek Squad, right?
Yeah, right. In the USA, you mentioned that TechBuddy could be Geek Squad in Europe, but better.
Yeah, will be
Better. Yeah. They have 20,000 employees.
Right. Plus. And yeah, I mean, Geek Squad is a great example. They're doing wonderful things for Best Buy in the United States. They're probably the biggest player in the United States when it comes to tech support, and they're also sort of synonymous with that service. I'm gonna get a Geek Squad for this. And so we want to become that synonym for tech support here in Europe, obviously. And so how we differ is that Geek Squad has full-on staff, and they're closely tied to Best Buy. We don't have full-on employees, but we sort of connect the demand with the supply. And so if the demand is up, then more buddies can come to our platform and take the task. But if the demand goes down, then they can engage in what they're otherwise engaged in. And so this creates a more optimal way of doing this as a service to our partners and for ourselves as a platform. It also makes it easier for us to scale our company and set up in different countries. And so it's been a success case with Telia and MediaMarkt and many of our other partners. Yeah.
Right, and I mean, TechBuddy has the potential to just accelerate.
Yeah.
What is the limit right now? What is the limit?
I don't think there is a limit. We don't want to see it as a limit. I think what's important, however, is to make sure that you do it right. I think gig economy has a bad reputation. There are companies that have used the gig economy in a way that's not beneficial for the workers.
I know this is a really important point.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is one of these things where there really needs to be a good debate.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like it's either or type of debate.
Yeah.
Either it's like politically completely wrong and you shouldn't support it, and this is not how it's supposed to be,
Right.
and this is dangerous, and you're putting everything in the hands of corporations. On the other hand, people say, no, nothing is wrong, nothing is bad, we can do whatever we want, and this is the freedom of choice, and da. But we need to really actually start having that discussion. How can we actually do this for the people that want, but also provide the safety that they need,
Right.
and make sure that because there is a problem, and that is living from gig to gig.
Sure.
And you can do that at a certain point in your life, but you cannot turn that into a lifestyle. For many people,
Right.
it's really hard. You can't get a house, you can't do this, you can't, like, you end up like living outside of society in a way, right? So it is an important it's a really, really, really important discussion to have. So do you have any? Sorry.
Well, the fact that you're a generalist is probably something that could tie into that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, I love that you bring that up because that's exactly the things that we're talking about. So we are talking to banks about how can you set up bank loans if we can show that some of our, you know, gigpreneurs are earning this much. So one of the things that is very important to me personally, and I know TechBuddy as a company as well, is that, you know what, if you're working the equivalence of a full-time, your salary needs to be equivalence of a full-time job, if not better. So, you know, we don't want to be the company where we expect you to work 160 hours, but you're not making, you know, the median salary or above. This is important, right? And if we can show that, if we can go to banks and say, listen, you know, this person is making 30,000, 35,000, you know what, 40,000, whatever they're making a month in, you know, the Swedish equivalents, they should have the option of getting a bank loan or a house loan. You can't even get a computer loan as a gigpreneur right now.
And that's worthwhile to say in Sweden. I think it actually translates to a lot of Western economies as well. Yeah. But without a permanent employment in Sweden, you cannot get a loan.
Exactly.
And it's just really impossible.
Or even sign up for a housing, any sort of house. You can't get a rental agreement without a full-time employment. So we have very outdated. The gig economy is here to stay. All the numbers and research are showing this. It's growing at a fast rate, both in Europe and, you know, in the US and elsewhere. And so what we are saying is, you know, let's do a fair version of the, or beneficial version of the gig economy. And that's what we're fighting for. And so we're talking to political decision makers. We're talking to unions to say, you know, let's unionize them, or at least come up with a way that's beneficial for them to have this sort of protection.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we give them insurance. You know, in many places where they use their cars, we, you know, they can claim the mileage with us, and we compensate them for that. And so we, you know, we want our buddies to feel taken care of, and if they feel taken care of, then they'll take care of our customers, and that's really our business model.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, and that's and it's such an important, like, this is so behind.
Yeah.
And it's so worth to really raise these questions, because a lot of people want to have the freedom of working when they want, when they can, when they are available. And technology actually allows us to do that. The problem is legally, where, you know, not every company either is going to be good.
Yeah.
Companies are going to use the loopholes that there are, and specifically when a company grows to a certain size, it's almost going to be demanded from the shareholders that they do turn a bigger profit and that they do all of these things that they know that they can do, right? So, so there is definitely a huge kind of area where we really have to direct more attention. And can probably pour a little bit more balanced debate. It's not either or. And
I completely agree. And, you know, the question of choice becomes invalid, because, you know, if you only get white and black as choices, then that's not freedom of choice. But if you have the entire scale of gray, then that's choice, right? You have these 20 things to choose between, not black or white. And as you said, the debate is very much should we or shouldn't we? But it's also, you know, to which degree and which implementations of. And so, you know, it's funny you mentioned that flexibility is one of those things. Everyone lives on the assumption that everyone wants a full-time job, and that's not the case. We asked our buddies. I think about 750 people have passed through our system just in Sweden. And so we asked our community of buddies, and we said, you know, what makes you want to be a buddy in our platform? And they said, first of all, flexibility. This is the number one thing that they are happy about using our platform. This is, you know, why they're engaged with us. Others commit. You need to commit to a full-time or nothing. And with us, they have the option of choosing to work when they want to work. Second is working with tech, right? Again, these are people who many of them don't have resumes yet. So getting that tech job right now where they are in their careers may not be an option. And so they get to work with something they have a passion for. That's great. But third of all, and this is very surprising, it's they want to help other people. So when we ask buddies, people who have, you know, been out on tasks and whatnot, they come back to us and say, you know, it feels great being in customers' home, seeing that they're struggling with things and helping them out. And we want to be more than just fixing tech problems. We want to be, you know, sort of, you have a tech expert in your home. How can you get more from your in-home technology? Maybe just ask our buddies how you should set it up. And so our buddies enjoy doing that. That's it's been surprising to us.
Yeah, and it again also ties in with the way that we see how we've been talking about before on the show is like, where are we going? And what's happening in 5, 10, 15 years from now?
Right.
Not everyone, and what becomes kind of painfully clear is that not everyone is going to have a job.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like that idea that you can have a full-time job, that's just not really going to be financially viable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure we have to have the why and so that discussion right now.
But it's going to happen.
But it is going to happen, and that just creates a whole. We need a new model on very many things, but this is a part where we have to start right now.
Yeah.
Because this is the beginning of the transition of part of our economical model to something that actually caters for automation,
Right.
for AI,
Yeah.
for blockchain, and for a lot of those technologies that are there right now. So go help us to push for this too. I mean, you can always, don't be comment and say what you want
Right.
down here, but be a part of that push because it's
Yeah.
really important.
Have the debate. I think
Yeah,
that's,
have the
debate.
Have the debate.
Have the debate
Yeah.
at home as well.
Yeah.
I mean, talk, and I think it's really important to talk with your parents.
Right.
You know, talk with people in different places. You know, explain your situation and your worries and so on, because we need to drive that change a little faster than it's happening.
Yeah.
But where will you be in 5 to 10 to 15 years?
Well, I'll be a TechBuddy. That's
Yeah, full time.
Yeah, full time.
Are you part of that
Yeah.
model? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the same thing with generalists and experts. You know, the same dichotomy with gigpreneurs and full-time workers. It's not that we're going to get rid of full-time workers all in all, or get rid of experts. Experts will always be needed, and full-time people will always be needed. And so I've had the gig type of lifestyle before. I used to have my own company and do things. And that's great. And, if you can make that happen, a lot of our people, we've asked some of our full-time people, can we employ you? And they're like, no, I'd rather freelance. You can have me full-time for now, but I'd rather freelance, and that's fine. And we do engage them full-time. For me, I think I have a position which I love, and I don't see that changing. Yeah.
And where does your holistic side come in?
Yeah.
Is there a risk of you getting tied down, expert? Like, is that comfortable for you?
Well, so I don't think I will be an expert in anything in particular. And so that's the thing. I think that is the holistic part. So on an average day, I think I'm involved in many different parts of our company. So I'm involved with the marketing, how we're going to position the company. I'm involved in, our future, how we're going to develop what's our 3-year plan, 5-year plan. So there are different aspects of the business model where I want to be involved and also have opinions, right? And I think that's where the generalist idea comes in. The understanding that, listen, if you tweak a little bit here, it's going to have consequences for the entire company. And sometimes it's going to have consequences for 2 years, 3 years ahead. I'll give you an example, right? At one point, we were talking to a company that makes, let's just say, a supplier for a product. And they were discussing with us whether we could form a partnership so that when we're out, we could recommend that product to customers. Now, that'll be very financially beneficial for our company, but it's also one of those things that it will take away the authenticity of our buddies, right? We want the buddies when they're in someone's home to recommend what they think the customer should have. That's very different from when you have a formalized partnership and they're to push a product, right? And so I think that's the kind of generalist aspects that I like working with, thinking about these kinds of things and saying, okay, so if we do this, down the line 2 years, 3 years, these problems can arise. And
it's so important what you point out is to stick to where it feels right.
Yeah.
And it's a soft thing often. But the problem is that when we look at short-term gain, and from a particular angle of the business.
Right.
Some decision seems obvious. And then you look at it from another,
Right,
and you
right.
go like, why would they do this?
Yeah, right,
you know,
right.
like how could they even start to think that this was a good idea? So having that part, and also the kind of the heart of the business there, is incredibly important. The question is always going to be how you convey that to shareholders,
Right.
And in the extent of things. I mean, how do you really convey 5-year value?
Yeah.
Right, and this is I feel like a really difficult part of businesses, and often when they go public, and how do you convey that? Because it's, I think it's like Electrolux is a huge story about how they started really turning profit in the 90s and started having this modern approach where it's all about, you know, increasing profitability and the value of that, right? So turning that thinking around too is important.
I think that's a great thing, and it's very important. The value, I think you have to understand value in terms of are we still relevant in 5 years? Are we still relevant to the audience? And you know, people talk about millennials and the generations that follow, and how important the why is to them, and how they, you know, they're conscious consumers more so than the previous generations. And so you think about that, and also the people who work. You look at Google, for instance, and they've done 2 or 3 things right now where their employees have either walked out or said, if you do this, we will walk out, or etc. I mean, that's a massive statement. Same thing with their customers. Like, you all know the delete Uber trend that came around. Snapchat, what happened when they did a pun on Rihanna. There are massive examples of when you miss on the values, you're going to take massive losses. And so it's so easy, as you said, with shareholder expectations to sort of bend a little bit and bend a little bit and bend a little bit. And somehow, you know, even a company as Google, who's always been very strong with the values, you know, at different stages, sometimes something comes and you look at it just as you said, you're like, this is a great deal. And then the employees or the customers say, well, listen, that's not a great deal because you're turning against your values. And so I think it's very important to think about that and maintain who you are as a company.
And like you point out there, and that's really a revelation that I think a lot of people needs to think about, is that you as a customer have that power.
Right.
In a way.
Right.
And specifically today, I mean, complain about stuff that you don't like, you do it.
Yeah.
And push things that you do like. You know, show companies that you like something, that you do something.
Thank you. Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's important. And because, like, if we go back, you know, when I like 20 years ago, we started playing computer games like crazy. People were like, oh no, you can't play computer games this much. You need to study, get a real job, blah, blah, blah. Today, playing computer games is a real job.
Yeah.
You know, like, the thing is that what we put our mind to, what we want to do, what we feel is going to be a reality at some point.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So what is important to us as a generation and what is important to the next generation, that is going to generate, that is where the income and the money is going to be. Right. And you need to actually apply that to the systems that you're having, whether it be political system, whether it be how you organize, you know, companies, whether it be all of these things. They need to kind of shift with that, with the values that are, you know, in the consumers and the people's general interest.
Exactly.
And you've done that beautifully with TechBuddy.
Oh, thank you.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
Well, it's the founders team truly who set the foundations for those values, and I'm, you know, a person who tries to execute on that and make sure we maintain that path.
Yes.
Really.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have to close the show
soon.
Do you have any last words that you want to share with the audience?
Last words. That's so big.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you were talking about gamers, and so since we are on Twitch, I really want to say, if you are a gamer, you know, contact us, because gamers are the best tech buddies. Truly, like, these people, they know difference between chords, right? You know, like, this chord is so much better for this kind of, you know. So if you're a gamer on Twitch, contact us. We would love to have you on board.
Awesome.
Yeah, there is so, and you're absolutely right there. It's so it's so crazy. Like, that knowledge is worth a lot. Not only on Twitch, off Twitch too. I mean, don't be afraid to reach out.
Here's an example. In fact, going to show you some. We had a hackathon with Worlds. It's
Oh, yeah.
the hackathon finished midway through November. We're now into the second phase where we're collecting votes and downloads so that each finalist can win prize money, as exemplified by this chart. So we have 5 teams who have games on Google Play Store. You are welcome to download them right now. They're all in the game store. And currently, we've had 2 teams reaching 100 downloads. The first team to win, WRLDS Dance, took away $3,000 in prize money. The second team to gain 100 downloads won $2,000.
They've been going up there.
Totally, they've been monstrous. And then the 3 other teams are waiting to get their 100 downloads in order to collect their cash. The next team to win 100, I keep saying win, gain, it's all the same. But the next team to get 100 downloads on the Google Play Store will take home $1,000. And that's on you guys. You guys, if you want to make a difference in people's lives, give them some money, inspire the gamers to become tech buddies and all these wonderful things, you can go to the Google Play Store. Exactly. That's a circular. Exactly.
You get $1,000 and download 100. You can.
Exactly.
It's getting confusing.
And also, just a little pitch for Worlds. There is a $10 discount code that you can use. Fun Christmas. Just go to worlds.com. And
Siavash,
in
sorry,
honor,
it seems like it's just we have this
oh wait,
view
there's a payoff to this.
Beautiful.
Because we would like to thank you for
Oh,
joining us on the show.
Am I getting a...
Oh yeah,
You're
you are.
Okay.
Wait, it says Fun Christmas on, so you can go to the store and get $10 off your box.
Give him a block. Give him
I
a
like
block.
it. Discount in the box. Thank you so much. Well,
Yeah.
I look forward to having fun with this game. So there are how many games do you have right now? It's like...
There's actually 9 games on the store right now. Google Play
Awesome.
Store.
Yeah, it should be
exactly.
great.
Yeah. So check it out,
well,
and they're free.
The
They're free
future
to
of this with AR, I think, is going to be
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
It opens up a whole new world of just play,
Yeah.
which I love, and I wish I had this when I was a kid so bad, always being like, should we play computer games?
Yeah.
Should we play outside? I can't decide. Finally, I'm like, both. Let's do both.
This is. I wish we had another hour to talk about just AR and yeah.
One day you'll have to come back. You'll have to come back. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Delve deeper into this stuff.
Yeah. So on next week's show, we're going to have Eric Hugo, who calls himself a full stack business developer. It's such a great title. Full stack business developer. He's also the founder of Bus ITG. We'll be talking about how to build a global business network and also his last 3 decades worth of experience in the tech industry. So definitely tune into that. And most excitedly, we're going to have 2 parts to this interview. So the first half will be next week, and then we're going to do part 2 on January 3rd. So stay around for that.
We can talk for a long time. Let's just say that. And he is obviously super engaged. One of the really super important people in Worlds. Kim has helped out, just a tremendous amount. Really, really great, and always very inspiring to listen to. Super knowledgeable man.
Exactly, as are you.
Thank you.
Thank you once again.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah.
It went by so fast.
It does. It's incredible. I'm always like, we should have another good hour. We should make it like 3 or 4 hours.
SMT. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's been great.
We'll find a way. Now, to close the show, we have a ritual. We wave stupidly to the camera, and then we all press the end button together. Okay, as a team. So,
wait for us.
thanks for watching. See you next Thursday.
See you.
Bye.